The Miami Dolphins are stepping into another week that's anything but ordinary. On paper, it's just another pair of joint practices, just another stretch of August football. But for anyone paying attention, for anyone who knows what's been brewing through camp, this isn't just routine. This is the kind of week that could tell you things about this team you won't see on a scoreboard. The kind of week that quietly shapes the season before it even begins. Detroit. The Lions. Second round of joint practices. And already, the tone feels uncertain. Not because of the opponent, but because of the absence of three players who, in their own way, set the heartbeat of this team. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips. They didn't play in the preseason opener against the Chicago Bears. No deep routes from Hill. No quick cuts from Waddle. No pressure off the edge from Phillips. The kind of absence you feel, even in a game that doesn't count in the standings. And now, with the Lions on deck, we still don't know if they'll be out there for the high-intensity, high-stakes joint work everyone's been circling on the calendar. Mike McDaniel sat down with reporters over Zoom on Tuesday before the team's afternoon walkthrough. And if you were hoping for a clear answer, you didn't get one. Instead, you got something in between, a careful, calculated answer that keeps the door open without committing to walking through it. They're kind of day-to-day, McDaniel said. Simple words, but layered with that coach's knack for saying just enough. I'm not expecting them, but I kind of have to see how it plays out. There's still some time before that, but they're definitely in the conversation for sure. But we'll see how their body responds. In other words, don't count them out, but don't get too comfortable thinking they'll be there. And that's the tricky part, because Hill, Waddle, and Phillips aren't just starters you can plug and play. They're the tone setters. Hill's routes pull the air out of a defense. Waddle's movements tilt the field. Phillips' first step changes the pocket before the quarterback even knows it. And without them, the joint practices might have a very different rhythm. Then there's Elijah Campbell. Safety. Special teams contributor. One of those glue players who can disappear in a box score, but be the difference between a drive-ending tackle and a first down. He left the Bears game in the second quarter with his knee being checked by trainers and didn't return. That kind of moment usually drops a knot in your stomach. But McDaniel's update was unexpectedly positive. Campbell's day-to-day. It could have been worse. And in August, could have been worse is sometimes the best headline you can get. Safety Dante Trader Jr. and cornerback Cam Smith, on the other hand, are expected to be ready to go against Detroit. That matters. The Lions' offense isn't soft. They'll push the secondary, test the coverage, try to find mismatches. Having Smith out there means those battles in practice could be some of the most revealing reps of camp. But the biggest absence is still Darren Waller. Acquired from the Giants, still on the puppy list, still not in pads. And McDaniel's made one thing very clear. Waller's first day in a Dolphins uniform won't be against another team. The man's coming off the brink of retirement, and his first rep won't be in a joint practice full of competitive tension and unexpected contact. The timeline feels like it's pointing to next Wednesday, the solo practice before joint work with the Jaguars. That's the possible debut window, soft, controlled, and without the Lions' defense trying to prove a point. And then there's Alexander Mattison. His story took a hard turn Monday when he went on injured reserve with a neck injury from the Bears game. Fourth quarter. One hit. Suddenly the season changes. McDaniel says it's not career-threatening, and that's more than just a medical note. It's a lifeline. But in football, not career-threatening doesn't mean back soon. It means there's work ahead, and the Dolphins' backfield rotation has to shift immediately. The offensive line. That's been the undercurrent of every camp update. Depth is the word, or maybe the warning. Fans have been scanning every roster move, every injury note, looking for help to arrive. But McDaniel's update this week didn't carry a silver lining. Liam Eichenberg, Andrew Meyer, both out, not coming back anytime soon. Eichenberg's been on PUP since the first day of camp. Meyer went down 2 weeks ago. The timeline's blurry, and blurry timelines in August have a way of becoming September problems. Austin Jackson's story is different but no less frustrating. The starting right tackle's been sidelined since getting stepped on late in a practice weeks ago. One of those freak plays that changes your lineup without warning. He's still out. still waiting. And with every missed rep, the challenge of building chemistry along the line grows a little heavier. So what's the real question here? Maybe it's not, will Hill, Waddle, and Phillips practice against the Lions? Maybe it's, what does this team look like when those guys aren't there? Because it's easy to shine when your stars are on the field. The deeper test comes when they're not. That's when the second unit either steps up or exposes the gap. That's when you see if the team's identity is built around a handful of names or if it runs deeper. This week in Detroit isn't just a rehearsal for week 1. It's a mirror. It'll show the Dolphins exactly where they're sharp and where they're not. And it'll do it in a setting that's as close to real as preseason gets. Another team on the other side. No scripted cooperation, just competition. The Lions aren't coming to Florida for a sightseeing trip. They've got their own camp battles, their own roster questions, their own pride. And that's why joint practices can turn into some of the most telling days of the summer. The drills turn into duels. The 7-on-7s get personal. And the 11-on-11s? That's where tempers can flare. That's where you see who's ready to hold their ground when the guy across from them is wearing a different color jersey. For the Dolphins, it's a chance for the young receivers to run routes against unfamiliar coverage. For the backup pass rushers to see if they can collapse a pocket without Phillips leading the charge. For the offensive line to protect without the full starting 5. It's also a chance for McDaniel and his staff to see who's adaptable, who can adjust mid-drive, who can stay locked in when the plan changes because the personnel isn't what they expected. That's the kind of thing that matters in December, and it's the kind of thing you can't fake in a classroom or a playbook meeting. So maybe the real drama this week won't be about whether Hill, Waddle, and Phillips step onto the practice field. Maybe it'll be about what happens if they don't, and who steps into the space they leave behind. And here's the thing. Those answers don't show up in a press conference. They show up in the middle of a rep when a second-string corner is lined up across from a hungry young receiver, or when a guard who wasn't supposed to be in with the first team has to block a blitz he didn't see coming. They show up when the cameras aren't rolling and the scoreboard's off, but the stakes are still high. The Dolphins are walking into one of those weeks now, and it's the kind of week that can either fade into preseason noise or echo into the season ahead.